Okay, so I've been playing a lot of Paper Mario Randomizer. Like, a lot of Paper Mario Randomizer. And one of the things that tends to show up a lot when I'm playing the randomizer is an item I have grown to hate. The coconut. For some reason, even though it doesn't appear that much in vanilla, it tends to replace a lot of items in the randomizer, and every time I see it, it annoys me. It's not a particularly great item. You throw it at one enemy, it does 3 damage. But during one playthrough, I had a particularly bad fight against Bowser. It wasted a ton of time, and when I finally got him down to low health, I just happened to have a coconut in my inventory, and I was like, you know what? Let's just kill him with this. So I chucked a coconut at Bowser, dealt 3 damage to him, and killed him. And then I had a really stupid idea. What if, instead of just killing Bowser, I killed every boss with a coconut? What if every boss I fought, I had to get down to 3 or less HP, and then threw a coconut to kill him? And what if, instead of doing it in the randomizer, I just did it in regular vanilla Paper Mario? Is this a good idea? God, no. Did it go well? Oh, God, no. But I did it. And here's how.
He's the leader of the bunch. You know him well. He's finally back to kick some tail. His coconut gun can fire in spurts. If he shoots ya, it's gonna hurt. He's bigger, faster, and stronger too. He's the first member of the DK crew.
So every run of Paper Mario starts the same way. You watch a cutscene, you get a letter, you head to Princess Peach's castle. You walk up to the hallway and are interrupted by Bowser. This is an unwinnable fight, it's completely scripted, you have to lose. And as this is playing out in the background, let's go over the rules of this run real quick. Rule 1. Every boss that can be killed by a coconut must be killed by a coconut. What that means specifically is, there are some bosses that cannot be killed by coconuts. Bosses fought in the prologue, for instance, Junior Troopa or the Goomba King, are fought long before you can actually get coconuts in Chapter 5. So they don't count. But once coconuts become available, every boss must be killed with coconuts. Rule 2. Only the final hit of a boss fight counts for the coconut. This is more for my own sake. There are bosses with multiple phases or with multiple enemies, and it can just be really hard to get enough coconuts to fight everything while also having enough items to actually fight all of the bosses. So for instance, only the final Koopa Bros of the Koopa Bros needs to be killed with a coconut. Only the final hit of the second phase of Lava Piranha needs to be hit with a coconut. Everything else can be fought with normal attacks. And Rule 3, we are doing every chapter boss. This is not going to be a playthrough where I fight every single boss in the game, but I am going to fight every single chapter boss, and a few extra ones on top of that. And as per Rule 1, every single one of them needs to be killed with a coconut. Back to the actual game, with Mario defeated, we end up in the Goomba Village. There's really not much to do here. We get blocked from leaving by a block. Then we have to go talk to Goomba, who has mysteriously disappeared, leading us to Junior Troopa's playground. This is where I would do Junior Troopa skip if I was cool, but as I'm apparently not, instead we will be fighting Junior Troopa. The first of a few bosses we won't be able to defeat with a coconut, unfortunately. This is a tutorial fight. There is, as far as I know, literally no way to lose it. We just jump until the fight ends and then move on. Back to Goomba Village with our newly acquired hammer, we get our first badge of the game, Power Jump from Goomba, as well as our first partner of the game, Goombario. We head towards Toad Town and we encounter yet another boss battle that unfortunately we cannot nut. Red and Blue Goomba, pretty easy. It's just a power jump, a head bonk, a power jump, and then a fire flower, and both bosses are defeated. Moving forward, we quickly encounter yet another boss fight with the Goomba King, as well as Red and Blue Goomba. This is another really easy fight. It's just a power jump, a head bonk to the tree, another power jump, another head bonk to the tree, and then a jump on the tree. What the hell was I doing? God, this was terrible. Anyway, then it's just a regular jump on Goomba King, and the fight is over. With the Goomba King defeated, we head towards Toad Town, grabbing a badge that I'm pretty sure no one has ever actually used on purpose, Hammer Throw. From there, we head up to Shooting Star Summit to see the first of hopefully not many Peach scenes, before heading back down and obtaining the Lucky Star from Twink, giving us access to the action command. We also have to fight a Magic Koopa here, but this is not a boss fight, so even if I had coconuts, I wouldn't have to use one, but it's pretty quick and it's pretty easy. Back in Toad Town, we do our first actual trick of the run, Black Toad Skip. By clipping through the floor using this yellow toad, we can land on the corner of the post office. From there, we can jump to the out-of-bounds seam on the right side of the map, and then fall directly to the loading zone behind the black toads. This allows us to skip both talking to them and to Merlon, and allows us to enter directly into Chapter 1. Heading down Pleasant Path, we grab the Fright Jar, the POW Block, as well as some coins before heading into Koopa Village to deal with the invasion of fuzzies they seem to be dealing with, so that we can add Kooper to our party. Chasing the fuzzy who stole Kooper's shell, we play a quick mini-game to get the shell back where we unfortunately do not get perfect luck, give the shell to Kooper, adding him to our party, and then we start another mandatory fight with some fuzzies. The fight is actually really easy, they only have 3 HP, so that POW block we grabbed not that long ago, plus an uncharged power shell from Kooper just KOs all of them. With Kooper now in the party, we head towards Koopa Brothers Fortress, stopping to grab a Thunderbolt and a Fire Flower along the way. There's a mandatory fight at the beginning of the fortress with a Koopa Troopa and a Babomb. It's really easy, it's just a power jump and then an uncharged power shell, letting the Babomb kill itself on us. But the important thing is we get our first level up here, taking an increase in FP. Heading further into the fortress, we grab Power Bounce, and then it's time to do what is apparently the hardest trick in the entire game, Stair Skip. Doing Stair Skip allows us to access Bombette early and add her to our party. Breaking out of the jail cell, there's now another mandatory fight, but we just used that Fright Jar we grabbed not long ago to scare all the enemies off. Alright, now that we have Bombette, things can finally start to get interesting. The first thing we need to do is leave. Yeah, we're leaving Koopa Brothers Fortress and we're heading back to Toad Town. See, in order to beat every boss with a coconut, I need to actually get coconuts, and now that I have Bombette, I can actually do that. Even though coconuts only appear in Chapter 5, it's actually totally possible for me to enter Chapter 5, get coconuts, and leave, all without the game realizing that I'm not still in Chapter 1. Thing is, to actually get to Chapter 5, I have to do a trick I am not particularly good at. Log skip. How bad am I at doing log skip? Well, here's the timer as I enter Toad Town and walk over to Ralph, using him to clip out of bounds to start the trick. And here's the timer when I actually get it correctly. Yeah, this did not go well. And the best part is, I have to do it one more time after this as well. I'm blaming my controller for this one though. I'm used to doing this on an N64 controller with notches, not doing it on this weird Switch controller where I have to be way too precise with my angles. Whatever, I did at least get it. We can finally move on. At least I managed to hit Blue House Skip on my first try, which gets us into the sewers where we encounter what will be the last boss fight in the game before we have access to coconuts, the Blooper. Blooper is really easy, just power bounce for like a lot of damage and then bonk it with Goombario. If I had gotten very lucky, this would have been a 2-turn fight, but it's quick either way. With Blooper defeated, we can finally enter Chapter 5, get coconuts, and truly begin this run. But we only grab one while we're here, otherwise the only thing we actually get are 3 Thunder Rages from the Yoshi Island shop before we immediately leave to head back to Chapter 1. Returning to Koopa Brothers Fortress, we just have some cleaning up to do. We grab this key here, then head downstairs to enter the Koopa Pit fight where we have 3 battles to get another key. The first battle is pretty quick, it's just 2 enemies, but the other 2 are kind of annoying, so we use those 2 Thunder Rages we grabbed while on Yoshi's Island. Heading back upstairs, we do a trick called Pie Jumps to... Heading back upstairs, we do absolutely no tricks whatsoever and watch this slow cutscene of platforms moving out of the walls so we can advance up to the top of the fortress to finally fight the Koopa Bros. There's still one mandatory fight left with some Bullet Bill blasters, but as we still have a Thunder Rage left, it goes really quickly. And now, finally, almost an hour into the run, it is time for our first chapter boss, the Koopa Bros. The fight isn't particularly difficult, that's not really surprising. It is, of course, the first chapter boss in the entire game, but there is some strategy that goes into it. There are 2 phases to this fight, the first phase being against Bowser, who has 1 defense. Luckily, we still have that Thunderbolt that we picked up way at the beginning of this chapter to deal 5 damage, and then we can just bomb with Bombette. Importantly, this does 9 damage, which means at the beginning of the next turn, Mario can just use a hammer attack to KO Bowser. Turn order actually doesn't reset between phases in this specific fight, which means we get to immediately go into Bombette and bomb the Koopa brothers off of their tower formation. From there, a Fire Flower knocks them down to 2 HP, and a Body Slam from Bombette takes out Green. A jump from Mario and a Body Slam from Bombette takes out Yellow as well, before Red and Black return to their tower formation. Bomb knocks them over again, and with Mario's jump taking out Black, it's finally time. With a mighty heave, Mario unleashes a coconut directly at Red, instantly killing him and defeating our first boss of the run with a coconut. With our first chapter boss defeated, we receive our first Star Spirit card. A card we promptly ignore and just leave behind. Yeah, see, there's actually one more rule to this run, and that is that I made this category, and it's called Coconut Percent, not Get All the Star Spirits Percent. And I don't want to watch Peach scenes, so we're just going to ignore these. One side effect of not getting the card and not watching the Peach scene, however, is that there's no normal way to enter Chapter 2 from here. I once again have to do log skip. And, as you can imagine, it did not go well. However, I did eventually get it, and with that done, we can finally enter Toad Town Station, hop on the train, and enter Chapter 2 proper. Arriving at Mount Rugged, our stay in Chapter 2 is actually going to be pretty brief. There's really not much to do here. We run into Parakarry, and we run around the mountain grabbing his 3 letters so that we can add him to our team. But outside of that, the only thing we really do here is stop to get the seed that we need to get into Chapter 5, and we grab a handful of Whack-A Bumps. Outside of coconuts, these Whack-A Bumps are actually probably the most important item to get in this entire run. They will constitute both money and the best healing items that we'll have access to, so it's important to grab quite a few of them while we're here. But after we add Parakarry to the party, we leave. It's back to Toad Town. We don't even have any coconuts in our inventory right now, so clearly we can't do anything in Chapter 2 right now. Heading back into Toad Town, we jump back down that pipe that takes us to Chapter 5 before I quickly realize, hey, I forgot to buy the Speedy Spin badge. So we head back to Toad Town, where I sell one of the Whack-A Bumps to get enough coins to buy Speedy Spin, and then we head back into Chapter 5 again. Have I mentioned this run isn't going great? This run isn't going great, and trust me, it doesn't get better. Back in Yoshi Village again, let me take a minute to explain the way this game handles Mario time traveling through chapters like I'm doing. See, certain events count as flags that update the state of the world. For instance, activating any of these scenes where Colorado gets jumped by enemies tells the game I'm in Chapter 5. So by using these flags, I can set the game to be in any chapter I want, which is why I can be here in Chapter 5 now, but will still be able to finish Chapters 2, 3, and 4 later. It is definitely also worth mentioning that I am not using the best route to time travel through all these chapters. I'm not beating the game as fast as you possibly can. I'm just doing it the easiest way that I can do it to get through the entire game. With that said, now that I've properly placed myself into Chapter 5, we can go add Sushi to our party. Ostensibly to go save some Yoshi kids who are lost in the jungle, but actually we're just going to ignore them and let them die as we climb up this tree here. Using this tree, we can get Mario out of bounds, allowing us to access a somewhat hidden loading zone that we're supposed to exit Jade Jungle from that takes us directly to Raphael Raven's tree. Talking to Raphael does build the zip line that takes us into the volcano, which is nice, but the actual reason I talk to him is to get the Ultra Stone. It's not absolutely necessary, but being able to ultra rank my partners makes some fights just a little bit easier, and it allows me to do specific strategies that I wouldn't otherwise be able to do when trying to get bosses into that sweet zone of 1 to 3 HP to kill them with coconuts. Entering in the volcano, there's actually not much to do here. The main time sink of Chapter 5 is actually supposed to be saving the Yoshi kids, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and let them die. We do get our first upgrade to our hammer, an Ultra Rank hammer in fact, skipping Super entirely. We grab a Life Shroom that we don't need right this moment, but will become very important very soon. We also upgrade Bombette twice, first to Super and then to Ultra Rank while in the volcano. And then we head right over to the boss room where we clip off Colorado and skip it entirely. Yeah, I'm actually not in a great position to fight this boss right this second. I'm not 100% certain I'd be able to beat it with a coconut. But that's fine. We can time travel a lot. We'll come back here later. Beating Chapter 5 is actually something important for a different chapter. Beating Chapter 5 takes us to the first of hopefully not many Peach cutscenes, where we have to play an annoying game show that takes far too long, just for us to lose it anyway, to find out where the next Star Spirit is. Back on the island with Mario, we head out to the beach where we grab our first Repel Gel, yet another incredibly important item for this run, but one we won't be using for a very long time. We grab the volcano vase, which we trade to Colorado for another seed into Chapter 6, and then we head right back into Toad Town. From Toad Town, we enter Forever Forest, but not to start Chapter 3, we're actually here to grab the last of the seeds we need to enter Chapter 5, as well as an HP Plus badge while we're here. Okay, now that we have all the flower field seeds, we can start Chapter 6, and while that's happening, I want to talk a bit about those flags I mentioned earlier. While I did say I can use them to time travel around the game quite easily, there is one major exception: Chapter 6. Chapter 6 requires those 4 magic seeds we got to enter. However, giving Minty the yellow seed actually crashes the game if you do it before you've finished Chapter 5. Even worse, the door to Flower Fields only opens once. If you travel back to an earlier chapter, it disappears, and you won't be able to enter it again because you have no way of getting the 4 seeds you need again. This means once you've started Chapter 6, you basically have to finish it right then and there. But it's worse than just that, unfortunately. See, all the items you need to make the beanstalk and reach the chapter boss are tied to NPCs rather than being in chests. This means if you skip one of those NPCs, there's no way to go back and get their items because the world will have updated to a point where you should have already gotten it. All this basically just equates to once you start Chapter 6, you have to finish it all in one go, and you have to play it basically completely normally. So that's what happens. I fight the moles to get the magic bean, taking a level up to my badge points along the way. I talk to Rosie, who has Lily's water stones that I can then go talk to Posy to get fertile soil and a crystal berry. I trade the berry so I can return the water stone to Lily and get the miracle water. Somewhere along the way, I leveled up Parakarry. It was all very slow and boring, but we did it, and our reward is getting to talk to the sun. And more importantly, another boss battle, this time with Spike. The Spike fight isn't massively eventful, but we do get to see our first and only use of the badge hammer throw. Spike has 50 HP and is a flying enemy, so our completely unboosted jumps just aren't going to cut it. 3 sets of hammer throw and Parakarry's shell shot deals 36 damage to him, and a follow-up Starstorm for 7 and Parakarry's skydive for 4 puts him at exactly 3 HP left, meaning Mario can toss him off with a nut to the face, taking down our second boss with a coconut. With Spike, or I guess Lackluster now, added to our party, we have almost everything we need to finish the chapter. But first, we need to make a quick detour back to Toad Town. You need a boot upgrade to do the puzzle that leads to the Puff Puff machine, so we head into the sewers and grab ourselves the Ultra Boots, as well as a Life Shroom on our way out. However, we don't immediately return to Flower Fields, instead taking a second detour while we're in the sewers. Heading across the water, we enter the Dark Koopa room and clear them out while we're down here, taking a level up along the way, this time to FP. This unlocks a pipe to Chapter 3, which will be useful later, as well as a partner upgrade block that we use on Goombario? That can't be right. No one ever upgrades Goombario. Anyways, with that done, we head back to Flower Fields, do the Rising Platform puzzle, upgrade Goombario again, and then take out the enemies guarding the Puff Puff machine. With all of that finally finished, we can plant our magical beanstalk, watch just an absurdly long cutscene of it growing, and Mario riding up to the clouds, and fight our next chapter boss, Huff and Puff. Unlike the previous boss battles, Huff and Puff actually presents some amount of challenge. He has 60 HP, is a flying enemy, and he is the first of multiple endgame bosses that can heal himself. Meaning not only do we have to get him down to the 3 HP threshold, we have to do it specifically on a turn where he won't heal himself. Luckily for me, the turns he heals are actually predetermined, and even more luckily, right outside Huff's boss room is the Super Jump Charge badge. So the strategy is simple. Charge Mario's jump for multiple turns, power bounce Huff and Puff until he's at low health, and then nut all over his face. There is a catch, however. Huff and Puff's damage output is actually quite high, meaning we have to waste a turn at the start of the fight using Chill Out to increase our survival. And even using that method, he will eventually chip us down to death. Even worse, Huff and Puff has a rarely seen attack that he only uses when he's under 5 HP, which unfortunately we are going to be putting him at. That deals a massive 15 damage to us. This is where our 2 life shrooms come into play. We both during this fight, using the second one to come back from Huff's last stand attack, just to hurl a hairy nut directly into his forehead, beating our second chapter boss with a coconut. Alright, with Huff and Puff down, we're finally done with the slowest and longest part of the game. Our next goal is Chapter 3, and luckily for us, we just so happen to have a pipe that takes us directly there. There are a few ways to get ourselves set to a Chapter 3 state, but I actually go for a slightly slower one so that I can add Bo to the party. By entering then leaving the manor, we are placed into Chapter 3 again, allowing us to quickly grab the ghost portrait and head to the top of the manor to recruit Bo. I'm not actually entirely sure why this works. I think it has something to do with entering the courtyard of the manor for the first time, setting you into Chapter 3, but the pipe not counting as you entering normally. This can actually be completely skipped, as we could put ourselves in a Chapter 3 state in Tubba's manor instead, but I want to use Bo, and this is my category, so I can do what I want. On our way to Tubba's castle, we grab yet another repel gel, but as there are no mandatory fights in this chapter outside of the boss itself, there's really not much else to do. There are two extremely important badges to get in the castle, though, those being D-Down Jump and Mega Rush. So, hey, this is slightly more in the future, Pink Reaper. While I was editing this video, I forgot to add this clip in, but I just wanted to share it with you guys. So after getting the Mega Rush badge, I decided I needed to get to 1 HP, right? So that I could be in peril for when I fought the boss in this chapter. And to do that, I went ahead and just got into a fight with some Clubbas and let them hit me to get me down to 1 HP. But I forgot that I had equipped the Close Call badge, which gives you a chance to dodge while you're in danger or peril. And yeah, I'm just going to let the clip speak for itself. Oh no, I have that badge on. Okay. I forgot about that. Dude, come on. Just hit me. No fucking way! This is the dumbest way I can possibly lose time. Once we've got our 2 new badges, there's literally nothing else to do in the manor. We grab the final key and head up to Tubba's room, grabbing the Mystic Key, and then that's it. We actually just head straight to the boss battle from here. There is one cool trick I get to do during the Tubba chase sequence, and that is, after he breaks the bridge, you can use Paracarry in a very specific spot to just sort of clip over the top of an invisible wall and skip a large portion of the chase from Tubba Blubba. Escaping from Tubba Blubba, we reach the windmill at the bottom of Gusty Gulch and use the Mystic Key, and it's already time for the boss. See, I told you this chapter would be quick. Tubba's heart has 50 HP, but this fight is actually incredibly fast. The fight is actually very scripted. Tubba's heart always charges on turn 1, meaning we get a free turn to attack. With the newly acquired Mega Rush badge and starting the fight with 1 HP, we can simply Power Bounce with Mario for as much damage as possible, Shell Shot with Paracarry, and then Power Bounce again with Mario to quickly take out the heart. But wait, Pink Reaper, I hear you say, you didn't defeat the heart with a coconut. Ah, but you see, Tubba's heart was only phase 1 of the fight. You actually can't defeat the heart with anything. Anytime it gets to 5 HP or below, it runs away, leading to the second phase of the fight with Tubba Blubba himself. Tubba only has 10 HP though, so a single bomb from Bombette sets him up for the easiest nut of my life, and we're already done with another chapter. With Tubba Blubba defeated, it's time to head to yet another very quick chapter, Chapter 2. Obviously, just like with every other chapter, we're going to go ahead and skip this Star Spirit card here and just head straight back to Toad. Okay. So now we head to Chapter 2. I Ultra Rank... Wait. Hold on. Did I really just... My dumbass just... Oh my god. Okay, so in my own defense, when I was actually streaming this, I had a bunch of notes set up on my second monitor telling me, you know, where to go, what items to get, what partners to upgrade, the exact ways to fight each boss to get them down to 3 HP, stuff like that, right? After I beat Tubba Blubba, I just started going over my notes, and I really wasn't paying any attention, and I just jumped into the Star Spirit card. And unfortunately, that means I had to watch this entire Peach cutscene. Luckily, it's not super long. It's just Peach entering into Bowser's room and being asked a couple questions by Kammy Koopa. It goes by very quickly. It is like 4 minutes I'll never get back of my life, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that huge of a deal. Alright, with that entirely unnecessary waste of time out of the way, we can head back to Toad Town and head to Chapter 2. Unfortunately, because I did technically finish Chapter 3, we are now in a Chapter 4 state, which is why I have to watch this cutscene of a Shy Guy stealing Tasty's frying pan, as well as deal with the Shy Guys right here outside of the train station. Once we do take care of them, though, we can finally get on the train and actually head to Mount Rugged and then Dry Desert proper. I do grab another upgrade for Bow along the way as we enter Mount Rugged, as well as another Whacka's Bump, just in case we need it for later. I also get to do a cool, if somewhat insignificant, trick called Buzzard Skip, which allows you to skip talking to Buzzard by walking out of bounds on this little bridge here. And with that, we are into Dry Desert. However, we're not currently in a Chapter 2 state. We're actually still in a Chapter 4 state, unfortunately, because I watched a Peach scene I wasn't supposed to watch. I actually don't have any coconuts in my inventory right now either, but luckily I have some in the shop storage, and we can actually kill 2 birds with 1 coconut by entering into Dry Outpost and watching that cutscene of the Mouser talking to Sheik and then running back to his shop. That sets us into a Chapter 2 state and allows us to grab more coconuts. From here, we just go right back into Dry Desert. We actually don't have to talk to Moustafa to get the Pulse Stone at all because we have the Ultra Boots. The loading zone for Dry Ruins is actually always active. It's just sort of too high for Mario to normally reach in Chapter 2. But because we have the Ultra Boots and we get a little extra height when we do a spin jump, we can actually enter the invisible loading zone from underneath. Dry Ruins, much like Tubba's Castle, is very uneventful. There are quite a few mandatory battles, but I just use Bow's Spook or Bombette's Power Bomb to win those fights in one turn. I do grab an upgrade for Sushi as we go to collect the 3 pyramid treasures to reach the boss, but after only a few minutes, I already have everything finished and it's time to fight Toot and Koopa. If you thought getting here was fast, the boss battle goes much faster. Toot and Koopa only has 30 HP, and we have a fully upgraded bow on our team. Fan Smack does 10 damage, and Mario's Power Jump deals another 8. So with one more Fan Smack after that, we've already dealt 28 damage. Toot and Koopa, like Tubba's Heart, is also very scripted on his first turn. He will always spend his first turn summoning a Chomp, meaning he never even gets to actually attack us. As I am quickly running out of nut puns to make about these bosses, I'm just going to go ahead and say that Mario throws a coconut in Toot Koopa's face, and we end yet another chapter. With Chapter 2 done, we now actually, for realsies, skip the card and head back to Toad Town to start our next chapter, Chapter 4. Unsurprisingly, Chapter 4, like the last few, is another incredibly fast one, but we have to do a little bit of setup to be able to actually start it. Unlike other chapters where we've been going back in time and using flags to put us into earlier chapters in the game, this is one of the few times we have to go forward, but luckily there's a very easy way to get the game to think we are in Chapter 4. By clipping into this wall here with Parakarry, we can get into the storeroom of Harry's shop, allowing us to grab the toy train very early. Having the toy train in your inventory actually tells the game that you are in a Chapter 4 state. So now that we have it, we can just head directly to the toy box and start Chapter 4. Once we're in the toy box, it's actually entirely possible to go from Blue Station to Red Station. However, it requires doing a lackey clip that I just don't quite know how to do, unfortunately. That's okay though, we're just going to take a slightly slower way of getting there. Heading to Pink Station, we can do a different lackey clip that takes us directly to the switch that opens up Green Station. Skipping talking to Gourmet Guy just causes him to disappear and drop the cookbook. I've always kind of found that interesting. Once we're in Green Station, we can just quickly solve this color puzzle, it never changes between runs, and then head directly to Red Station. Once we're in Red Station, we actually have to go add Watt to our party, which means we finally have a non-chapter boss to fight, this time being the Lantern Ghost. Lantern Ghost is kind of annoying. You can only hit him when his light has been illuminated enough to be able to see him. He will also always spend his first turn blowing out his lantern, which doesn't even make any sense. How do you blow out a lantern? There's no flame in there, it's just a light bulb, or I guess it's Watt. Are you blowing out Watt? Anyway. On his second turn, he always uses this light attack that hits both Mario and your partner. If I had been really good here and hit the block for my partner, they wouldn't have been knocked out for 2 turns, and Bo could have helped me end this fight much faster. Unfortunately, while I did hit that in practice, I didn't hit this here, so we have to use a slightly slower method of winning this fight. Big Lantern Ghost has 40 HP, so after our first 2 turns of using Fan Smack to deal 20 HP worth of damage, we do a power jump with Mario, and then another power jump with Mario, putting him at exactly 4 HP. From there, Bo comes back, and she can use a completely uncharged smack to deal 1 damage, leaving the Lantern Ghost at 3 HP, and then it's time for Mario to heave a nut directly on his ghostly face, and we're done with yet another boss. With Lantern Ghost defeated, we add Watt to our party and grab a quick upgrade for her right outside the Lantern Ghost room. From there, it's time to fight General Guy, one of the longest boss battles in this entire playthrough, and not because it's difficult, but just because it has 4 entire phases. Even with 4 phases, this boss battle isn't really that interesting. The Shy Squad, the Shy Stacks, and the Stilt Guys, I just sort of hit with whatever strong attacks I have with Mario, and then just follow up with Watt. General Guy, however, is a little bit more interesting. He only has 30 HP, but he is the highest defense boss we have fought at this point with 2 defense. Luckily for us, we grabbed the D down jump badge back in Chapter 3, and even more luckily for us, Watt just completely ignores defense whenever she attacks. A combination of D down jump plus Watt's Electro Dash deals 10 damage, so doing that twice, we've got General Guy down to 10 HP. From there, we do a single hit of D down jump plus another Electro Dash, leaving General Guy at 3 HP, and it's just a coconut away from yet another chapter boss being defeated with coconuts. Alright, now that we've finished Chapter 4, it's time to head back to Chapter 5. Remember, we haven't actually beaten the boss for that chapter yet, and I did make that dumb rule that says we're beating every chapter boss. I once again have to clip out of bounds by climbing up the seam of this tree, but this time we won't actually be visiting Raphael Raven. Instead, I maneuver myself past the loading zone to his tree and continue out of bounds towards the volcano. From there, I can actually just jump into some lava that doesn't have a collision and head directly in. Since we've already technically completed this chapter, there's actually not much to do in the volcano. Since we have Lackluster, we can also easily bypass doing all of the platforming, so let's just head directly to the boss. Lava Piranha has 2 phases, each with 40 HP, making it the highest total HP for any chapter boss other than Final Bowser. This fight, however, is extremely simple. In his first phase, we simply power bounce with Mario and belly flop with Sushi. Then we let Lava Piranha attack us. I grabbed Fire Shield earlier, so blocking any one of its 3 attacks leaves us with exactly 1 HP, giving us our Mega Rush boost. From there, another power bounce just ends phase 1. In phase 2, Lava Piranha comes back on fire, however this just makes it even weaker to water and ice moves, which deal extra damage and completely immobilize it for a few turns. A 5-button tidal wave from Sushi deals 7 damage to all 3 parts of Lava Piranha and takes them out of the fight. And a follow-up 5-hit power bounce from Mario leaves it at 8 HP. So with one last belly flop from Sushi, we have the plant down to 3 HP, and it's time to bust out yet another nut, taking down our 7th chapter boss with a coconut. Defeating Lava Piranha forces us into the volcano escape sequence, which inevitably ends with a Peach scene. The same Peach scene we actually saw the first time we were here. With Chapter 5 done, all we have left now is Chapter 7, and we're presented with a bit of a problem. The only way to actually enter Chapter 7 the proper way is to be in a post-Chapter 6 state, and talking to Merlon, which opens the door in the sewers that takes you to Shiver City. However, as I mentioned earlier, you can only enter and complete Chapter 6 once, and I already did that earlier, so how do we actually get into a post-Chapter 6 state now? The answer is simple, we just beat Chapter 5 again. Heading back into the volcano, we reach the room just before the boss room that's now been flooded with lava, and as I continuously fail to clip out of bounds with Lackluster, let me explain Peach warping. By using Lackluster and clipping out of bounds in this specific spot, it's possible to re-enter the Chapter 5 boss room after the chapter has been completed. From there, you can't actually progress through the room normally, there's actually an invisible box that will trap Mario in it if you try and walk through the room, but we can use Lackey again to clip out of bounds and skip it. Doing this allows us to reach the volcano escape sequence again, but importantly, when we reach the end of the sequence, the game just loads whatever the next Peach scene would be. Since we're currently post Chapter 5, that gives us the Chapter 6 Peach scene. After a very long and very pointless Peach scene, Seriously, Peach doesn't actually learn anything to help Mario here. He doesn't even talk to Twink after this chapter. What was the point of all this? We're back in Flower Fields, having apparently just beaten Huff and Puff. With that, we're in a post-Chapter 6 state, which means we can talk to Merlon and enter Chapter 7 normally. Just kidding, we're going back to the volcano. Yeah, see, while we could enter Chapter 7 normally, that's actually kind of slow and requires us to do a bunch of stuff I don't want to do, so instead we're going back to Chapter 5 to Peach Warp again. This skips having to talk to Merlon, having to do the Mayor murder mystery in Shiver City, a fight with Junior Troopa, and the entire sequence of actually getting to the Crystal Palace. Don't worry though, because even though we're about to get the Chapter 7 Peach scene, we will still be fighting the Crystal King. After yet another seemingly pointless Peach scene, at least this one was pretty quick, we are outside the Crystal Palace, having apparently just saved the Star Spirit, which means it's time to go back in and do that again. There's not actually a lot to talk about in the Crystal Palace. I don't have any cool tricks that skip anything to talk about, no neat little time saves or anything. I get the P up D down badge, but that's kind of it, so hey look, we're at the boss now! When I was routing out this playthrough, Crystal King presented a huge challenge. He has 70 HP, 2 defense, a ton of dangerous attacks, and worst of all, he can heal himself for 20 HP twice. This led to the fight being extremely inconsistent and extremely frustrating. I had a bunch of notes on what to do if he did a certain attack on specific turns, what to do if he healed at specific HP values, but there just didn't seem to be a way to make this fight work consistently. I would die more often than not. I even went to the Paper Mario RTA Discord to ask for help, and while I got a bit more information about when Crystal King is likely to heal, there was basically nothing anyone could think of that would stop him from doing it. And then Ari showed up, and reminded us all that Goombario actually exists. Somehow, no one else remembered Goombario both exists and has access to charge. So I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Ari right now, because this fight is now extremely easy. Using D down jump with Mario, we drop Crystal King's HP down to 40 as he starts healing whenever he's below 38. While doing that, we charge with Goombario until he reaches 21 total power. With Crystal King's 2 defense, that means a head bonk deals 19 plus 19 damage, leaving him at 2 HP, meaning Mario can chuck a coconut at him with extreme prejudice. Seriously, I hate this boss. And we have made it to the final chapter of the game. Now that we're finally done with the main chapters, there's only a little bit of cleanup we need to do. On our way back to Toad Town, we grabbed the final upgrade for Watt, as well as our third and final Repel Gel. With that, as well as 3 coconuts in our inventory, we head to Shooting Star Summit and make our way to Star Haven to begin Chapter 8. As the last chapter in the game, Chapter 8 is unsurprisingly pretty long, but I'm not going to bore you with all of it. Instead, let's go over the more interesting stuff. After arriving in Bowser's Castle, we are rudely dropped into prison by a talking door. However, we can actually skip the entire basement section. Taking Lackluster down this river of lava, stopping along the way to grab a life shroom, we can spin jump onto this badge block here, and then use Paracarry to fly over an invisible wall, allowing us to head right back into the castle, skipping all of the basement. Our next trick comes in what's known as the water room, which you would think involves sushi, but actually we're just going to use Lackluster again. Clipping out on the little fence here, Mario can do his best Jesus impersonation and just walk on the water. After clipping back in bounds here and revealing the spring, we can actually use Lackey to clip out of bounds again, this time to put us under the platform with the key on it. By doing a Kooper super jump, we could get the key if I wasn't bad and positioned myself in the right spot, but I am, and I missed the key, so we're just going to do the other method instead. We raise the water up to the top level and grab the key the mostly normal way, but hey, at least I can show you this other clip that allows us to skip lowering the water level at all, and also makes it impossible to ever go back through this room again. Water room leads directly into our next trick, Cannonless. That's right, Paper Mario has Cannonless as well. Once again, using Lackluster to clip into a corner, we can somehow on our first try clip into this wall seam. From there, we walk to the top of the room and jump out of bounds, positioning ourselves to land on the wall seam at the top of the stairs. Doing this allows us to simply ignore all the Bombshell Bill blasters in the room and move on. And with that done, I'm officially out of tricks in Chapter 8. Yeah, that was the last one, so let's skip ahead a bit. Heading into the boss fights at the end of the game, we start with Junior Troopa. Junior is actually a really interesting fight for this playthrough because over the course of the fight, he transforms as his health decreases. He starts in just his normal mode where all he can do is jump on Mario for 8 damage. Once he hits 38 HP or less, he transforms into his spiked flying form, which can deal 8 or 9 damage depending on his attacks. And then once he drops below 22 HP, he transforms into his magic form. and this is what we need to avoid. In his magic form, Junior Troopa can deal 8 or 9 damage, but far more importantly is the fact that he can heal 10 HP up to a staggering 5 times. And while you would have to be just like impossibly, stupidly unlucky, just the literal most unlucky human being in the world, it is technically possible that he heals 5 turns in a row. But the chances of that actually happening are so infinitesimally small, I doubt it has ever or will ever happen. But still, I'd like to avoid it if at all possible. Luckily for us, it's actually possible to avoid his third phase altogether. See, if Junior Troopa drops below 38 HP, he will always transform into his flying phase, regardless of what HP he ends up at. So even if he were to drop low enough that he should be in his magic phase, he will still spend a turn transforming into his flying phase first. That means if we can drop him from above 30 HP down to that sweet spot of 1 to 3 HP, we get a free turn to nut on him without worrying about him healing. So that's what we do. We enter the fight with 2 HP plus badges equipped, as well as Power Bounce, Super Jump Charge, and Damage Dodge. We spend the first turn using Chill Out to give us maximum survival, as well as an Electro Dash from Watt. We spend the next 3 turns using Super Jump Charge, as well as attacking with Watt, leaving Junior Troopa at exactly 40 HP. A 4-hit Power Bounce deals 34 damage to Junior, and a Watt Electro Dash drops him down to exactly 1 HP. From here, he transforms into his flying phase, but since he can't heal, insert fertilized egg joke here, the first of our final 3 bosses has been coconutted. With Junior Troopa down, all that's left is Bowser. Well, 2 Bowsers technically, as there are 2 separate fights with him at the end of the game. We stop to grab Power Rush as well as one last Life Shroom and switch up our badges before starting the fight. We enter with D-Down Jump, Power Bounce, Mega Rush, Power Rush, and P-Up D-Down. Hallway Bowser has 50 HP and 1 defense, so we open with a D-Down Jump and a Shell Shot for 14 total damage. And then Bowser has 3 attacks he can go for on turn 1. Either Fire Breath for 8 base damage or his Claw and Stomp attacks, which do 6 base damage each. We get really lucky on turn 1 getting Fire Breath, which deals 9 damage thanks to P up D down, and lets us do a Mega Rush boosted Power Bounce on turn 2. A 4-hit Power Bounce plus another Shell Shot brings our total damage up to 42, and Bowser will always use his Star Shield on turn 2, so we use Star Beam plus another Shell Shot to bring him down to just 2 HP. We actually get really lucky again here, as Hallway Bowser has a single heal he can use for 20 HP on any turn after turn 2 that he didn't go for here, so after eating a Life Shroom, we just chuck a nut at him, and with that, all that's left is the final Bowser fight for the game. Heading to the final Bowser fight, I once again change up my badges and show off a cheeky little trick. I equip both HP plus badges, P up, D down, Mega Rush, Power Rush, D down jump, and Fire Shield. But because I don't heal after putting on the HP plus badges, this means I get to start the fight with Bowser at 10 out of 20 HP. Bowser still has all the same attacks in his final fight, but now they all deal 2 extra damage. With my current badge setup, any attack he gives me on turn 1 will put me into danger, at least for a 2 power boost. But if he gives me fire and I block it, it will deal 9 damage and give me peril. Bowser also now has 99 HP and 2 defense, as well as a possible 3 heals for 30 HP each, but we'll get back to that in a moment. I open the fight with D-Down Jump and Electro Dash for 13 damage, then get the best possible luck with Fire Breath, meaning turn 2 is a peril boosted D-Down plus Electro Dash for 21 more damage, leaving Bowser at 65 HP. Bowser once again will always use Star Shield on turn 2, only this time our Star Beam doesn't work. This starts an extremely scripted and very boring fight with Kammy Koopa, so while that's happening in the background, let's talk more about the final Bowser fight. You may have noticed I didn't bring Power Bounce into this fight despite having on multiple damage increasing badges. This is because of a unique mechanic that Power Bounce has, the hidden cap percentage. It's a bit too complicated to fully explain here, but the basic idea is there's a hidden value that determines how many times you can hit an enemy with a single Power Bounce. Final Bowser in particular has the worst cap value, meaning you can usually get capped at 3 or 4 hits. Because of his 2 defense, even with a peril boost, a 4 cap Power Bounce only deals 18 damage, only 2 more than D-Down Jump. And a 3 cap only deals 15 damage, 1 less than D-Down. However, that's only if I get extremely lucky and get peril. With just a Power Rush boost, Power Bounce will basically never reach D-Down Jump's damage, without a 6 or a 7 cap. So we ignore Power Bounce for this fight, mostly just for consistency. The other big thing with Final Bowser are his heals, but luckily we can manipulate these rather easily as well. Again, it's a bit too complicated to go into fully, but the basic idea is the lower Mario's health is compared to his max health, then the lower Bowser's health has to be before he can heal. If Mario's max HP is high enough and his current HP is low enough, it's actually impossible for Bowser to heal at all. This is another reason for our current badge setup. We need to take as much damage from Bowser as possible while also not dying. Back to the actual Bowser fight, we get a full heal and an upgraded Star Beam, which can now remove Bowser's Star Shield. An attack from Watt brings Bowser down to 60 HP, and he spends his first turn attacking with Fire Breath. I actually don't block this at all, because a second Fire Breath can give me peril on block, and I need to be as low as possible on HP anyways. A turn 2 D-down plus Electro Dash puts Bowser at 47 HP, and then I get the absolute god luck and get yet another Fire Breath, putting me into peril. I spend the next turn using my first Repel Gel and attacking with Watt, putting Bowser at 42 HP. From turn 3 on, Bowser can use Star Shield, so I get further luck by not getting that here, and a D-down jump plus Electro Dash on my next turn drops Bowser down to just 21 HP. My luck continues as Bowser still does not use Star Shield, so I reapply my Repel Gel and attack with Watt, bringing Bowser down to just 16 HP. Because this fight was apparently blessed by Lord RNGesus himself, we once again do not get a Star Shield. However, I can't use D-down jump here without killing Bowser, so a regular jump deals 12 damage, and an uncharged Electro Dash deals 1 more, leaving Bowser with just 3 HP left. Tying what I assume is a world record for no Star Shields, Bowser once again attacks, meaning it is finally time. With one last monstrous throw, we bust the fattest and final nut right on Bowser's face, and we have beaten Paper Mario with coconuts. So from here, it's going to be mostly off script. I am fully of the opinion that a Paper Mario run should end right here when we get the Star Rod. So I'm not going to make you guys watch the 7-minute long final cutscene just to see Mario reach the party at the end. As we roll credits, I want to give thanks to a couple people. First off is Mace, just for helping me, giving me some tips on editing for this long-ass video, as well as for making the thumbnail for it. Ensing for the clip that I got to use of him getting healed on 5 times in a row by Junior Troopa in Chapter 8. That was just hilarious. Ari for reminding me that Goombario exists. Anyone who actually made it this far into the video, I'd like to thank you all as well. This took an incredibly long time, not just the editing process and recording for everything, but even just the actual playthrough. This was such a dumb idea. I don't know why I did this, but it was, honestly, it was really fun and it was really funny. I enjoyed, making these sort of weird strategies for bosses that I would otherwise never use to get them down to low HP. It was fun getting to use partners that I also don't normally use. When I play vanilla Paper Mario, even if I'm not like speed running it, I tend to skip things and skip partners. So like I almost never fully upgrade Bo anymore. I definitely never fully upgrade Goombario. But yeah, this was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I cannot believe how long it took me to beat this game. I really don't know why it took that long. It's a complete mystery for me, honestly. It's unexplainable. Anyway, here's a montage of every unnecessary fight I got into.